Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about everything from the models to the anime series to upcoming projects like the live-action Gundam movie and everything Gundam related.
That's right. And guess what today's episode is, Isaac?
It's a mail call. It's a mail call episode, everybody.
That's right. We're digging into the mailbag today, everybody. We're going to bring up some of the best questions or comments that we've received across all the different media sources out there. There's a lot of good comments that people made that are worth talking about. So we're gonna talk about them. So we'll start with one of the more recent episodes, which was our episode about the UC Next 100 project, retcons, and Zeon turns good.
Yeah.
People had a lot of good reactions to this topic. Thunderbolt Gundam on YouTube, he was very opinionated. He said, "I hope Sunrise Studios decides to retcon Victory Gundam and some other late UC stuff, as it ruins UC as a whole and adds no significant value." What do you think about that?
Okay. A retcon can work. All right, late UC. So I'm going to say F91 and beyond. So that's going to cover F91, Victory Gundam, Gaia Gear, if you include Gaia Gear in there, G Savior. Yeah, okay, so that's a lot of content. Retcon all of that. That's a tall order, Brian.
He's taking a blanket approach, man. Just get rid of it all.
I know, like he's using a shotgun to try to kill a fly.
Hey, he's got an opinion and he's sticking to it.
All right, Thunderbolt. Let me just say this. I'll agree if there's maybe a Marvel Cinematic Universe level planned out timeline of how the late UC will unfold. None of this, we hand off the project to this one team and they make, I don't know, Luna Gundam, and then the next team it gets handed off and they make, I don't know, Jupiter Crisis Gundam or something. It's like, no. We need something that really makes sense going forward into the future, so we're not just stuck in, 0079 side stories or something.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of Victory Gundam, but from what I read, it's a pretty heavy series. And by that, I mean, Tomino, he was in depression when he was creating the series. So that's why it's also one of the heaviest series as far as, character deaths and tone. Maybe that's actually something that should be retconned.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brian?
I mean, this is the problem you're going to run into with any retcon, right? There's going to be fans of Victory Gundam. They're going to be extremely pissed if you take it away. There's going to be fans of F91 that, are going to be really pissed if you take it away. Like you said, though, if you take it away, you really have to have a good plan on what to do in its place. And hopefully they're making one of those plans right now. I mean, the name of the project is UC Next 100 project, and I don't take that to mean that they're going to plan 10 years of the next 100 years of the UC. That hopefully they're planning the whole 100, and that either includes or excludes F91 and Victory Gundam. While I like those series,
why?
That's a good question. I won't say I like them as much as First Gundam or Zeta Gundam, or really the first 0079 through UC 100 time frame at all. But I guess I've always just kind of liked and accepted them because that's Gundam and that's what's been established, and it's just part of the canon. But I won't say his take is unreasonable. I mean, he's certainly entitled to say, I don't like it. It's different enough that he or she thinks that it sullies the Universal Century as a whole, and he wants it gone.
Yeah, let me jump back and forth over the line. All right, let me be on Thunderbolt's team for a second. All right, F91. I don't remember when the dub came out here in the U.S., but it's been out for a while, 10 years, maybe more. I don't remember when I bought it. Okay, we'll put this as a time reference. I bought it back when Suncoast existed and was like a viable place to get anime.
It's been more than 10 years, yeah.
Yeah. So F91's been around for a while. Crossbone Gundam's been around for a while. Are there a ton of fans for either? I'd say there's a good amount, but the average Gundam fan probably isn't too deep into those. And speaking of Victory Gundam, even less so, okay, because there is no dub for Victory Gundam. And as we all know, if there's a dub for something, more people are going to watch it because it's more accessible and you get more fans that way. Sure, there's subs, maybe there's a fan dub or something, but that's not the same thing. That said, yes, in that case, there's not too many people rooting for these two series that have been around for a while. Sure, wipe them out, make something new, fresh, creative that everybody can get behind and be really interested in. On the other side, I think maybe from a corporate perspective, Sunrise might think, no, we have this IP for F91 and Victory Gundam. It may be in the US they aren't too big about it, but here in Japan, these have sizable followings that keep buying product related to Victory Gundam or F91. So for that reason, we're going to keep it. But you know what? I'm going to ultimately agree with Thunderbolt. Yeah, why not Redcon? Let's go for it. Let's be experimental, try new things. When they made F91, they didn't continue the story for numerous reasons. It didn't really work out. And Victory Gundam was a mental therapy project for Tomino. So I think that might be the reason it's not as celebrated as it should be.
I'll say this. No one knows what they're going to do, whether they're going to get rid of things or not get rid of things. I think it's highly unlikely that we get through the whole UC Next 100 project without some amount of retcons. Whether they're small, big, I don't know. But I don't think we're going to go unscathed throughout the whole thing.
Nor should we.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this in that episode. All those series are old. If you want to move it forward from a corporate perspective, from a finance making money perspective, they're going to choose what's best to do that, not out of respect to the canon, I guess.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, there's your answer, Thunderbolt. Thanks for wiping out decades of Universal Century history and warfare.
But I just thought that was interesting because, I don't know, when we made that episode, we thought a lot of people were going to be pissed, right?
Yeah, but there must be more than one Thunderbolt out there too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Some people are like, oh no, wipe that stuff out. It didn't work. It came out in like the 90s. We can move on.
Yeah. So thanks, Thunderbolt. Your opinion has been duly noted. Another user on YouTube named Trev Firth commented that he really liked your suggestion about the Zeon and Fetties working together against a common enemy for a short period of time. So, I think your Zeon turning good or at least neutral idea might have some legs, Isaac.
It really, I think, makes everybody happy, right? On the one hand, you don't get Zeon wiped out and then we never see them again because people love seeing Zeon in the Mono Y mobile suits. We don't create some weird alternate history where Zeon wins or anything like that. And every series we've always had characters that are on Zeon or the Federation that we all liked. By giving them a common enemy that's maybe trying to destroy the Earth sphere or something like that gives them, an actual reason to work together since they're trying to save themselves. That really gives us a way to have a series where we get to enjoy both of those characters together against something new, a new opponent. But we went into detail in the other podcast. But yeah, I really see that as an ideal way for us to have Zeon and the Federation at the same time, but the only way that they wouldn't be fighting each other.
Yeah, and Trev's comment goes well with I am me and not me's comment. I am me and not me kind of blended the Zeon is good idea as well as the Minerva idea together. He wrote the Minerva plot idea is cool, but objectively feels like a demotion from her current seat of power, a la Netflix Voltron. He says he thinks Zeon would serve the story better by becoming an institution dedicated to preserving the rights of Spacenoids, with their sort of armed forces slowly assimilating into the Federation and kind of getting paid for it. And then that could lead to more conflicts. Is that kind of what you had in mind with your Zeon is good idea, or did you still think Zeon would be completely separate?
I think he's going with an interesting angle on it. Yeah, I was thinking more that it's almost a peace agreement that Zeon and the Federation reach, where okay, maybe even just for show or whatever, we're gonna have like a single fleet at least that is a mix of our ships and our mobile suits, and we're trying to make things work under Minerva. And then whatever enemy shows up from Saturn or whatever. So then they have to work together now, and now it's about we have to protect the Earth sphere. We kind of have a common cause. But I kind of like his idea where Zeon kind of becomes sort of the Spacenoid Foreign Legion or something like that. Yeah, because there weren't only people in Zeon wanting to fight for Zeon. If you remember Origin, they went to that colony where there was like mass protests, and some people were pro-Federation, some people were pro-Zeon, and they weren't even in Zeon. What else was there? Gato from 0083, he's pro-Zeon, but he's from the moon. So you don't really have to be born at Side 3 in order to be with Xeon. So I guess the idea of it being a Space Noid institution under Maneva kind of, yeah, that could work for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Like we said before, Xeon is an idea that can't be killed.
There you go.
And so it would be good to see it evolve into that. But you know, while I like where he's going with that, I don't know. I take exception to the fact that Maneva as a pilot would be a demotion from her current seat of power. What do you think about that, Isaac? I know you were shocked when I dared when I dared put the Xeon Princess into the cockpit of Mobile
How
Suit.
dare you? This shows that you're with the Titans. Only a Titan would think of this idea.
Only a Titan would dare put Maneva in danger.
All right. I think what he's referring to as far as Voltron is, all right, not to sidetrack us into a Voltron podcast, but there's a character that's like, she normally stays on the ship because she's like the last of the species or whatever that built the Voltrons and all that, and the build Voltron, and eventually she becomes a pilot. You know, big surprise.
Yeah, Princess Allura.
There you go. Yeah, she was from the Alteans. Okay.
By the way, I like how you pretended not to know that much about Voltron. Where you're like, hey, she's from like an alien race or whatever, and then you're like, yeah, she's Altean, clearly. But just for the record, both Isaac and I really like the Netflix Voltron show.
All I'm gonna say is Emperor Zarkon should have lived more. All right. May he rest in peace. Maneva as a pilot, a demotion. Well, I feel like they can maybe initially start her off in the bridge, because that's really where I think we would initially expect Maneva to be. But at some point, she can get her own mobile suit. She has to be in the mobile suit all the time. But maybe it's something like, oh, you know, we're in a crisis. We really need Maneva in a mobile suit. On the other hand, she really isn't that much of a fighter, right? I'm ambivalent about her being a pilot. I can see it being awesome, and I can also see, Maneva as a sovereign of Xeon. Xeon officers and troops might strap her to the throne if they had the faintest idea that she might get into a mobile suit just to try to keep her safe. You know?
Maybe this idea is better as like a comic where it just follows a team that has to prevent Maneva from getting into dangerous situations.
Or it would be an episode in this series where like Maneva, like, I don't know, they're in some type of situation where the pilots are out of commission or something. Maybe they got food poisoning. So Maneva and some other people that aren't the best pilots, they have to get into mobile suits.
Oh yeah, there you go. That works too.
So maybe there'll be a few comedy scenes with Xeon pilots and officers trying to convince her not to step foot in the hangar bay.
Yeah, I guess to clarify, I didn't intend for her to be assigned to like a mobile suit team, meaning that she was not leading Xeon. I always pictured it as it was her choice to fight. So but I don't know.
I think you raised this on the podcast we were talking about. That would so be like Dozel, right? She's his daughter, and her getting in a mobile suit to actually lead her troops into battle, man, that'd be a big callback. And I don't remember Dozel doing a lot in a mobile suit that earned him a lot of fame, other than just being in the mobile suit. That kind of rallied his troops, but overall, I don't remember reading anything or hearing about him being an amazing pilot, but just his presence on the battlefield leading his troops was probably made a lot of difference in how they performed. Yeah.
I forget how many people were piloting Big Zom.
Well, he had a Zanku before that, didn't he? Or a Dom, something.
He had the Dom, but I think in the lore he didn't actually use the Dom. Like it was built for him, but he never took it out.
Yeah.
What a waste of resources by Xeon.
That's how we do things at Xeon. We hollow out colonies to build giant super weapons, and then we fry them on their underpowered shot. How do you fry something on an underpowered shot? I'm wondering about that.
The Xeon has a lot of problems with shooting things, like the colony laser burned out, the Mars Xeons, the reactor became unstable after one shot. I don't know.
If Minovsky was still around, he would have patched up that solar ray in 2 minutes.
Garen would have been good to go.
He would have turned that thing into an automatic weapon.
I guess if we assume that Minovsky didn't defect, then really the Black Tri-Stars are responsible for Xeon losing the war.
But then again, how cooperative would Minovsky be if they took him back to Site 3?
That's probably true.
No,
probably not much.
All they know, he would have made like a bomb that like explodes at a certain point or something.
Garen probably would have killed him anyway. So
yeah.
One of the more interesting ideas came from a user on Twitter named Workhorse Diesel. So he said, so hear me out here. Far UC future new types are prevalent enough that they form a big government with abusive/oppressive kingdoms, and it's normal humans that have to fight them with outdated mobile suits and guerrilla tactics. Outmaneuver, outsmart them, kind of like the boys. And he mentioned that that could get you a protagonist that's an underdog. Could lead to a lot of dirtier, down to earth combat, similar to Eighth Team, multiple factions. I kind of like that idea. I do think that's probably further past the next 100 years. New types becoming a majority powerful enough seems. I still feel like they're a little. Not everybody's a new type, by UC 100. Does seem a little further in the past or in the future. I don't know. What did you think about that one?
I feel like it's almost like an interesting what if universe. Like, what if in the distant future there aren't necessarily tons of new types, but there are just so much more powerful than the current 0079 new types. And yeah, maybe they were able to turn the king new type of each side is able to really rule that side as an independent kingdom. It's just this hellish dystopia where new types kind of oppress old types. I can see where he's going with it. It sounds like a pretty interesting idea. What kind of, I think, maybe throws a bit of a wrench into the engine is how are old types in old mobile suits going to compete with super advanced futuristic new types in whatever insanely powerful mobile suits they're supposed to build. In a way, it feels almost like Iron-Blooded Orphans, just because it'd be the scrappy rebels against the way overpowered, technologically advanced dominant power. I think you can maybe make it work by having a Gundam Jack. That's really the only way it'll work, right? They have these powerful old new types that rule this future society, and they've built these new Gundams, and who steals it? These old type rebels, and then now they're going to use these Gundams to try to liberate, each independent kingdom in the Earth sphere, something like that. So I can see it working. It's an interesting idea for sure. You get the whole underdog factor, right? Just like the boys, where they're just normal humans going up against these really evil, superpowered beings.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with your same problem that you arrived at. You just have to solve the problem of how do you equalize the combat. Because what we've seen up to this point in the Universal Century, I don't see how an old type is going to beat a new type in combat. So if you solve that problem, or if you introduce an equalizer into the story, then yeah, I think you've got a pretty good series there.
Yeah, this is cool because it's almost kind of like an alternate timeline in which the Federation does get overthrown, but it ends up being just sort of the post-apocalypse ruled by these new type warlords.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Pretty cool. I like it. Interesting idea. Thank you, Workhorse Diesel.
Yeah, good one. Let's see. So that topic of the UC Next 100 and retcons was really popular. Another really hot topic seemed to be the live action movie, Isaac. People have a lot of opinions.
I mean, they should, because this will kind of make or break live action Gundam in the US. Right?
That's true.
Possibly break. I don't I have mixed feelings each day, like how I think this is actually going to go down. It might get Pacific Rimmed.
No, please no.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with a softball here, but a user on YouTube named Kiryu Sanagi said that he or she would cast Mark Hamill as General Rebel. And I think that's great. I love that casting. I don't know. What do you think?
Mark Hamill, he's at the age, and as we've seen recently in his recent performances with a beard, he could absolutely pull it off as General Rebel. But I feel like if we did that, we need General Rebel to almost have like a bigger mentor role in the series, just because, it's Mark Hamill. And whenever he's on screen, and like a lot of characters, he kind of gives a lot of, advice. And it'd be a shame not to get our money's worth of Mark Hamill. So
yeah, I agree.
My concern with that would be, okay, are we taking away from whoever's going to be Bright Noah? Because he's supposed to be the surrogate, the father of the ship, a father to his men and women. But Mark Hamill could absolutely do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess if we get General Rebel in the movie, I would hope that we get to see him at least as much as we did in Origin in that kind of context.
That's a lot of screen time in a 2-hour movie, Brian.
Yeah.
I don't think you know what you're asking.
Well, compressed for the 2 hours.
Do we get to see him run in 0G again?
We better.
Well, it wasn't 0G, but it was close enough.
Whoever plays General Rebel, that has to be part of the audition. They have to attempt to do the Penguin run.
We put one of those like pregnancy suits that they give so teenagers in like high school can understand like the weight of a pregnancy. Like we put that on Mark Hamill and we just have him run in like, I don't know, gravity boots or something. Bouncy shoes.
Hey, gotta thin that herd, man. People are gonna want to be in this movie. You gotta make a choice somehow.
I like it.
So that, Kiryu clearly is looking forward to the movie, coming up with some casting choices here. There's another user, Wild One Mind. How the hell do you say that? Wild One Mind.
Will D1 Mind.
Oh, Will D1 Mind. Will D1 Mind. There's another user.
Are we about to summon a demon?
I don't know. Maybe.
We keep saying this over and over.
There's another user on YouTube, Will D1 Mind, who he's pretty skeptical. He's pretty skeptical about this film, Isaac. Wrote us a pretty lengthy note. A live-action Gundam movie takes all the things that work against Western live-action anime to the next level. He says, look, sets and technology of Gundam would require a huge budget. And just beyond the Gundams, it would go to all the tech, the homes, the cities, the colonies. The military tech is different. There's transport ships, bases.
Oh my God!
All of the capital ships. The zero gravity being pervasive throughout the show. Costumes. He thinks the costumes are going to look corny and cheap. And I think he's worried about it. What do you think about that? I mean, my response to him was, let's assume a big budget. I mean, I think we're assuming a big budget here, right?
Massive.
Yeah, I mean, we have to assume this is at least a $200 million film. I think this is meant to be a tentpole blockbuster for sure. I think he's certainly right to be skeptical, but I don't know, what's your take?
I disagree with him on all fronts. I mean, it sounds like he thinks we're gonna have to build these things. Like, there's too much tech involved in the transports, Brian. In the colonies, how are we gonna design the colony? It's like, with the magic of computer graphics and generation, we'll be able to pull it off very well. And I can understand the concern because it's an old franchise, but you can say the same thing about Star Trek and Star Wars. And we have a Star Trek series that's on CBS. We've had Star Trek movies and Star Wars movies come out recently. So you can kind of take the general aesthetic of the original series, give it a bit of a facelift for the modern times, and just bring it back, update it. It's completely doable. Like those horrible updated Aliens movies that they keep making, right? Was it Covenant and Prometheus? For a movie that came out in like the 80s, they just do a facelift for some of the equipment and all that, and they just keep it the same. It's going to be a xenomorph running around killing people. All the movies are the same. And I think this can be done well, as long as it's not made to look like they pulled it from the 70s and keep the exact, same color palette and all that. Just modernize it, update it, and it's going to work. Just, don't worry about it. Our biggest worry is the story. Visually, I think that they know how to get the Gundam to work, right? We saw it in Ready Player One, and we've seen big enough robots in Pacific Rim, so it's doable.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's doable. I think where he's right to be concerned is it's doable as long as, maybe this is redundant, but it's doable as long as it's done right. So you've got the success stories of Star Trek, Star Wars, the Alien movies. They look great. I don't think production value is the problem.
Right.
I think maybe what he's worried about is maybe he's thinking of maybe some less successful, adaptations. Like, for example, I know there's people who really love Starship Troopers. That didn't really end up well. There's people who, up until this new Dune movie coming out, I think there were a lot of people who maybe were disappointed in the older Dune movies.
Yeah.
So maybe he's more leaning towards, well, not all these things work out, and maybe only the really, really big ones do. And how do we know that Gundam is going to be one of those successes? Like, maybe they're just going to cheap out and totally ruin it. So,
possibly.
Yeah, I mean, they could. He could be right.
It could be a train wreck.
We're just we're gonna hope that you're wrong. Will D1 Mind.
Yeah, we talked about this in the movie episode, but for all we know, the story's going to be about how after a terrorist attack, the U.S. government decides to build a Gundam to fight to fight, these terrorist mobile suits or something. All right. Well, for all we know, that's the story.
Yeah.
We don't know. For all we know, it's going to be, just about a fleet battle in the Gundam. It's anybody's guess right now, but visually, I think it can be done well. Hopefully, they make it look good. But, there is such thing as bad graphics, bad designs, things like that. It's just, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. We can only hope.
Yeah. So that was one of his concerns. The other concern he shared was that, I think our suggestion that, Bandai Sunrise and Legendary would dare not make it connected to any other form of Gundam media, meaning it would be an original story. I don't think he was too thrilled about that idea. I mean, his opinion was, look, if you detach it from everything else, then it doesn't tie in to 40 years worth of IP that people can go consume. And I get that. I remain unconvinced that an original story is a bad idea. I think I'm still on the side that it's really hard to get someone to buy into something that connects to 40 years worth of canon if they've never heard it before. Because I personally think that this film is aimed at new fans. Maybe your opinion on this question depends on who you think this film is for.
Yeah, and also what kind of film you think it is. This really hinges on what exactly are we going to see. Because once the trailer drops, fans are going to be able to look at it and hopefully be able to say, oh, that's the Gundam hijacking. Oh, we're going to get to Solomon. Maybe Solomon's going to be the end battle. Or, oh, Odessa is going to be the end battle. Who knows? We're going to be watching the trailer going like, oh, that guy has to be bright. There's Kai, blah, blah, blah. Whether a new story would be worse than the current established story, I think it really depends on the quality of the story itself. For all we know, there's an amazing original story they want to tell with Gundam. They're going to view it as sort of a one-shot universe they're making. It's going to have maybe nods to 0079, but it's going to be great. Or, on the opposite side, for all we know, they watched a few episodes of the original series and they're like, you know what, we can condense that into a movie. And once they release it, it's going to have bad pacing, very bad writing, and it might not work even though it's technically following, the beats of the first 10 episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam. We don't know yet. We can only hope for the best. And I think ultimately it just comes down to a good story is going to be a good story.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess I want to bring up that I don't think making an original story detaches it completely from 40 years worth of IP. If you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the DC, film universe, they are their own timelines, but they're not set in the same canon as the comic books. But after you see the movie, you can go to any comic shop, and the movie is similar enough that you can, get into the comics and consume that other media, whether it's video games, comics, novels, whatever. When we say original story, I don't know. That's what I'm kind of thinking, that the original story would still be similar enough that if someone wants more Gundam after they see the show, they would not feel alienated if they wanted to go find more of that content.
Yeah, I'll say this, Will D1 Mind. I will be groaning with you if we see a scene where like the Gundam's next to the Statue of Liberty holding like a giant American flag after the battle, like right before the credits roll, and like they play like a really loud rock music or something. You and I will both throw like our popcorn at the screen.
So I assume then that you did not like the end to the original Spider-Man movie, directed by Sam Raimi.
It was a different time because that was, God, what was that? 2002? No.
Around 2001-ish, I think. So yeah, probably around 9/11-ish.
Okay, it might have been before then. But that was a little different. It would have been different if Spider-Man like swung to Ellis Island and like the Statue of Liberty was behind him and then the American flag and I don't know, he salutes or something, and you show a bunch of terrorists that have been like strung up in his web. Then it would have been like, oh boy, really? They really went for it? honestly.
The last thing that I thought that was interesting that he brought up was that I think he's probably rightly pointing out that maybe the way that American companies and Japanese companies go about adaptations is different. He's saying that basically the Japanese approach is to use the film to boost the popularity of the other IP, whereas I think the American approach is probably we're going to adapt that IP and our adaptation is going to be the main moneymaker. I think the question there is we don't really know who's exactly in charge or what the goal is. I mean, obviously Bandai is involved, Sunrise is involved, but Legendary is involved too, and I'm not sure which philosophy is going to win here. But I would imagine it's more of the American philosophy if you're coming to an American studio to make the film.
I wonder if he knows more about like manga than we do, because from what his comment was saying, it almost seems like he believes that Americans are just kind of more visual, right? We just want to see like the anime or the OVA, the movie.
Yeah.
But in Japan, the anime or the film is designed to sort of supplement a manga series.
Yeah.
So maybe he's saying that, I guess, just because of Japanese culture, they read mangas far more than Americans, which I'll buy. But I don't think it's necessarily, I wouldn't say it's that cut and dry. I would say that there have to be Japanese fans that they couldn't care less about a manga series. They want to watch an anime series or an OVA. Here in America, obviously, overwhelmingly, manga isn't that popular compared to the number of fans that would be consuming anime series or OVAs.
Yeah, I think bottom line on this topic, if you come to America and you're going to put out a blockbuster film, you need to make a lot of money on that film because it costs a lot of money to make that film. So you're aiming for the widest audience possible. That's my opinion, and I think I'm sticking to it. I think that's what we're going to see. Whether or not that turns out to be a good thing or a bad thing for us as a Gundam fan, and I think for Will the One Mind as a Gundam fan. I mean, clearly he's a big Gundam fan because he's very he's concerned about this. So who knows? This may not end up being a great project for fans like us who like the established canon, but maybe it'll create a whole bunch of new Gundam fans. I don't know.
It could be our Phantom Menace in the Gundam universe.
A whole movie about trade wars.
Comment below if you think this is winding up and it's, I don't know, place your bets. Is this live action movie going to be the Phantom Menace of Gundam movies? It's going to be a scene where a kid says, "I'll do a barrel roll." That's a good trick.
Oh no. Yeah, like a Fortnite reference or something.
His Zaku's are like shooting at him.
Yeah, what if the Zaku dabs or something,
Oh god. Yeah, in the background you have to look for the Easter eggs like the
Oh man.
that stupid Fortnite dance.
Okay, so if the worst outcome is it's the Phantom Menace, what's the best outcome? What is the analogous movie?
Okay, here we go. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I love this. I hope you're sitting down.
I am.
I hope the listeners are sitting down too. The best outcome is that this is a kickoff and it becomes the Iron Man of Gundam movies. And it starts just a chain reaction of follow-up movies that builds a whole Gundam universe for the big screen.
That was actually the exact thing I had in my head. In my mind, it was. Because in my mind, I've always felt...
Only a Titan would take my credit. No, I'm kidding.
Not Iron Man specifically, but I was thinking best case scenario is Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Right? You do not make this film with that big of a budget, with at least the thought of future films, with at least a plan. Maybe now, granted, the first one has to be a one-off, has to conclude 100%, because you may not get to make a second one. So you can't build it into the first one for sure. But you have to at least know that what you're doing, you need to do it well enough so that you can make more, make a lot more. And I'm sure that's their goal.
If this is done right, they will have penetrated the American market and the minds of American consumers in a way that really has not been done since, I don't even know what to compare it by. Since, I don't know, the Americans first tried sushi and it took off. Right? Like
you heard it here first.
If you do something right, if you do something right, you do it right, and everybody finds out about it and everybody wants it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we're a little more optimistic than you are, Wieldy One Mind, but I think you're right to be concerned.
I'll say we're cautiously optimistic
because
we're fully aware this could Phantom Menace itself.
If it Phantom Menaces at the box office, then Isaac will buy you some Phantom Menace merchandise or something.
Well, yeah, we'll We'll get some Jar Jar figurines. We'll have a Jar Jar episode. Or I don't know. We'll hang up our hats and like say, Sunrise, you you did this to yourself. We're becoming a Voltron podcast. Episode 1: Why Emperor Zarkon should have lived. Comment below if you think it's going to be a Phantom Menace or an Iron Man.
And then last note on the sort of live action film topic is the same user as before, Kiryu Sanagi or Sanagi.
He's back.
He's back or she's back. And he or she wanted clarification about what UC2 is within the UC Next 100 project. Again, I think on the board during the presentation, it was described as it was labeled as an overseas drama. So a lot of people have assumed that is the live action movie. And I think during all of our talking about it, I think we've always assumed that UC2 is a sequel for Unicorn. However, I don't think anyone really knows exactly what UC2 was meant to be. The sequel to Unicorn is that's kind of our guess what it is, because UC was the abbreviation for Gundam Unicorn. If you go look up the logo, it says Gundam UC, which is very confusing, right? Because Universal Century is also UC.
Yeah.
So that you got that fact, that was the abbreviation for Unicorn. Unicorn was a very successful series for the franchise, sold a bazillion model kits.
Incredible.
And the characters that you would expect to be left are still left after the film. Spoilers. And
I would follow Maneva into a black hole. In my dom.
in your dom, your customized space dom.
My customized heavy weapons dom. The built-in bakery.
And the last point I will add to this is, wait, hold on. Did you just say your dom had a built-in bakery?
Yes, it's big enough that we could put a bakery in the back. You never know when you need cookie dough in the middle of combat.
Well, that could be a good episode. Like, what would you customize your mobile suits to be?
Oh wow, yeah. What food would you want?
And the last point I'll make on this is why we think it's Gundam Unicorn 2. Is that the Unicorn author was there at the presentation, and he told everyone to forget that they saw that slide. So those three things make me think it's Unicorn 2, but it very well could not be, and maybe we've already seen the last of Mineva Zabi and our pal Benager Lynx, but no one knows. We'll see what happens.
I can live without Benager, but Mineva has more to tell in the story of Gundam.
Yeah, bring back Maneva. I think that's what we want. Bring back Xeon. A user named Adam Knight brought up a really interesting point that I did not know about
awesome
Iron-Blooded Orphans.
By the way,
is Adam Knight a reference to something?
I don't know, but doesn't that sound so Batman? Like Adam Knight was like the school bully that Bruce Wayne used to fight at the Gotham. I don't know, Gotham Academy. Yeah,
it does sound like a very well-established superhero name, right?
Became the supervillain Bloodstain or something.
Agree. Yeah, it sounds like a superhero that was come up with in like the 60s and 70s when you could get away with simple names like that.
Yeah, Adam Knight. I'm gonna say you either fight crime at night or you are the criminal.
Adam Knight, are you Batman?
Yeah.
Please let us.
Are you the one who slayed the bat?
So he brought up a really interesting point that I didn't know about. I guess neither of us have watched Build Divers or Build Divers Re-Rise, but apparently there are no Gunpla in the show from Iron-Blooded Orphans. And he takes that to mean that perhaps that's because they want to make more Iron-Blooded Orphans, and they don't want to, I guess, reveal any more suits or designs from the show. Because as we talked about in the Iron-Blooded Orphans review, according to the lore, there were 72 Gundam frames made, and we didn't see anything anywhere close to 72 frames in the show. They got a lot left to fill out here. I think between the show and all the side stories, there's maybe 20. And there has been rumors of like a season 3 or some sort of sequel over the years, and obviously nothing has come of it yet. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Isaac?
I'm curious about production time. For all we know, when they were working on Build Divers, they didn't have access to the designs because they were still underway, or maybe they weren't finalized, so they just didn't include them in. My headcanon instantly says, okay, Build Divers is clearly, as we've said before, it's the Pokemon of the Gundam series in a way, right?
Yeah.
The kind of Yu-Gi-Oh battle it out, whatever, Fortnite. So for that reason, these kids aren't going to watch Iron-Blooded Orphans because it's so damn violent and dark.
Well, that's fair.
So there's no way they'd ever select those mobile suits, or maybe even the parental lock on like the little Gundam arena stops them from selecting those mobile suits. I don't know. It's I doubt we'll ever see a sequel of Iron-Blooded Orphans that has 72 Gundam frames. There's just no way that. How would that even work?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we'd get all 72 at once, right? But maybe the next show they show 10 more, or I mean, you could definitely show a lot of them if you made a Calamity War movie, right?
Yeah,
They'd all be at their peak at that point.
Yeah, you couldn't necessarily focus on them, and they're definitely not going to make 72 models.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know. Don't you test Bandai now?
Jerry, are you listening? Are you listening? We just got delivery of like 72 models. Like, we did it.
We did it just to spite you.
You Americans are all cowards. You have no faith.
No faith in the IP. Yeah. So I think the production time is a good point. I think that definitely makes sense for probably Build Divers, but I mean, Build Divers Re-Rise, that's either still going or just finished. So that one they definitely would have had the designs for Iron-Blooded Orphans. So I don't know. I think it's a little fishy.
Maybe.
I like the sentiment. I don't know, but you're right. I don't know if the Pokemon kids are watching Iron-Blooded Orphans.
I have a feeling for every Gundam build like battle, because there's just so many battles that happen throughout that series. They're probably looking at like a whiteboard with a ton of post-it on it that have like every conceivable model that's ever been in any Gundam series. And they just, get in a room, a few dozen of them, and they're just maybe kind of yelling or voting about who they actually want to see in the battle. And maybe Iron-Blooded Orphans doesn't win. I mean, I've had some issues with how their Gundams looked. Some of them I thought weren't very Gundam-ish. And also the feet. I'm not a fan of the stilettos.
Well, that's fair. Maybe that's a good point. Maybe they don't put them into the show because their designs, maybe they look too different when placed next to the rest of the, I'll say, more normal Gundam designs from other shows.
You also have to keep in mind, since Build Divers is such a, not over the top, it's a very flashy show. The fact that there aren't any beam weapons in Iron-Blooded Orphans kind of pulls, it takes some points away from their designs. Okay. Yeah. So I feel like compared to other series where, they're just covered in weapons, beam weapons especially. I'm looking at you, Gundam C. Yeah, you can definitely get more bang for your buck if you swap out an Iron-Blooded model with something else that's more flashy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So Adam Knight, again, let us know if you fight crime. I like where your head's at on this one. I think Isaac's not convinced, but I'm gonna hope that your conspiracy theory is correct, and maybe you will turn something up on your nightly prowls through Gotham City.
All I know is Galahorn would win in any new Iron-Blooded Orphan series.
Why even try?
Yeah.
We had an interesting hypothetical from a user named Yakushiki123. that was what would win, the solar system or the colony laser?
Oh boy.
I gotta say, in my mind, that one's pretty clear. I'm voting colony laser the whole way.
So I'm gonna assume they're both deployed. They're both facing each other.
Yes.
I'm trying to think like.
Well, let's do it two ways. If they were deployed and deployed and both facing each other, what do you think would win?
I feel like, all right, I'm not trying to get out of this with my answer, but I feel like it depends. All right, if the colony laser manages to hit the control ship for the solar system, the colony laser wins. Because as we saw with Gato, once that control ship is down, the solar system's over. So, I mean, to defeat the solar system, you pretty much have to knock out one ship.
Yeah. With
the colony laser, I feel like the solar system, well, we've seen it cook an asteroid. I guess it's conceivable it could cook a colony. I don't know. I think you're right, Brian. Yeah, I'm going to switch. I'll agree with you. The colony laser would win just based on its speed. It can shoot and fry things pretty quickly. The solar system, you kind of need to boot it up. Once it starts getting cooked, it's not instant death. It takes a while to destroy them.
Okay, so that maybe that's versus each other. But which one would you rather have strategically?
I think the solar system wins because we know that's fleet mobile. You can carry that around, move that around. The colony laser, I think it has to stay in the Lagrange point. doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's
you
colony,
can't really.
so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only time you're moving it, you're kind of, I guess, risking a colony drop, which maybe you want to do, but then again, you're going to lose your laser ability. But yeah, I have always felt the solar system. Well, you and I both feel the solar system is pretty underrated and underused.
Yeah.
You know, it certainly seems more affordable and economical than the colony laser, right? I mean, we're essentially just building mirrors. So, God, cost effective wise, if it is cheap, how come every fleet doesn't just run around the solar system? You know,
Yeah,
the moment they see a Xeon fleet, they just deploy it and cook them. Actually, maybe it's good that never happened, because if that system was still around when the Titans were running the show, oh boy, so many systems, so many colonies would have just been cooked for like the smallest level of rebellion.
Maybe they would just like wall off the Earth in a solar system
and just start cooking everything.
Yeah, just as soon as you get close enough, it just cooks
just
you.
a disco ball at the center.
Yeah.
The center of the Earth sphere.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a reverse Dyson sphere, if you know what a Dyson sphere is.
It's just dark inside. We reflect light out.
Yeah. Oh man, I think it's one of those things where the colony laser is great if it works, but it's like putting all your chips on black or something, because once you fire it, it better have worked, because now everyone knows where it is and they're all going to come kill you. The solar system is probably more effective in the long term because, like you said, you can move it around and you can use it many times. So also, I guess it probably just depends which one of those you want.
The solar system is actually kind of secret if you think about it, because if it's packed up inside a fleet, you wouldn't have no idea until the fleet decides to deploy, right?
Yeah, no, granted, it probably. I would assume it takes a long time, right? I
mean, that's true too. But I mean, you could conceivably do it within a battle, like we saw at Solomon. Yeah. So.
Okay, so we're getting a lot of solar system love. If you have an opinion of which you'd rather have, the solar system versus the colony laser, let us know. Which would you rather have?
Comment below. Colony laser, solar system. What team are you on?
That brings us to the end of the mailbag, Isaac. Do you have any other thoughts? Any other comments?
If you have any questions or anything you want to ask us, just really leave a comment anywhere our podcast is available, whether it's YouTube or, even on the Twitter, whatever. We'll get to you in the future.
Yeah. Yep. And as a reminder, you can leave a comment on YouTube, Facebook, and our Twitter. You can reach us on Twitter at Colony Dropcast.
Well, that'll wrap it up for a mail call episode. Hope you liked all the questions we got to and all the comments we responded to. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you next time with our next episode.
See you later. Yeah, man, Wildy One Mind is he's not having it, man.
It's gonna be terrible.
I hope not, but he might be right.